We live in a society that is so divided right now. Turn on the television and watch division happen. I mean, you just watch it. It's not even, what channel do I go to? Just pick one. Just pick any one. It's there. Social media, open it up. You're going to see division. And what side you're on, I'm not even going to preach about that. It doesn't matter what side you're on. If you're on one side or the other, if there's another side, there's division there. And there's so much division going on right now. And I want to preach a message about how God has designed us to operate within a time of division. So many Christians are not standing up for what's right. For some reason, a lot of Christians stay silent. You know, when the controversy comes, we don't say the things. We're like, I don't want to cause any trouble. I don't want to offend anybody. And what do I do? At the same time, what we do is some of us, instead of staying silent, we choose to die on every hill. You know, like that's an issue too. I'll take that one. I'll make it my personal crusade, and I'll fight, and I'll take that one on. And in both ways are not healthy. So a lot of times we don't move forward with the right approach. People are often so afraid of offending other people that they choose to remain silent about the truth. And I just want to let you know, that offends me. So if you're afraid of offending people, stop it. No, it doesn't offend me. It's just, I wish we would speak up. When it needs to be said, it needs to be said. No matter how you look at it, it seems that everyone's going to one extreme or the other. You know, what do? Either we do nothing or we make it our personal crusade, one or the other. Some people just stand there in the shadows and you say nothing at all. I'm like, okay, there is wisdom in staying silent sometimes, so I don't want to take anything away from that. But there's also wisdom in speaking up when it needs to be said. There's wisdom on both sides. So which way what do you choose? There's a young lady in Scripture who lays things out pretty clear for the way that we're supposed to operate as children of God. She does a really good job with this. This young lady absolutely needs to be brought to the surface as an example of the Christian life. Her name is Abigail, and a lot of people don't know the story of Abigail in the Bible, but this young lady did something incredible. She was an extremely beautiful and extremely wealthy young lady, but her integrity surpasses both of those things. She was an incredible person. She was married to a narcissistic man named Nabal. And by the way, that's not my opinion. The Bible tells us he was a very narcissistic man. All about himself, greed, just whatever adjective you want to use that's a negative, that you could plug that into this guy's reputation. So this woman of so much integrity is married to this guy who doesn't seem to have any. And most likely Nabal paid a large dowry to assure Abigail would be his wife, because you don't see a person of integrity matching up with that other personality too often. But chances are that's probably how this happened. He's a very wealthy man. So her story, there's a lot of verses that are going to pop up today. On the screen, the verses will be there. Same verses that are in your Bible or on your phone or whatever you're using, so you can follow along, but they're on the screen. Also, the message will be online later. If you say, I was taking notes and I missed something, well, technology's taking notes for you also, so you can check it out later. But let's go ahead and look at her story here. 1 Samuel chapter 25, starting in verse 2. Now there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel, and the man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. By the way, that's the name of the city. He wasn't into Carmel. That's not his business. It was sheep, okay? The name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail. And she was a woman of good understanding and beautiful appearance, but the man was harsh and evil in his doings. He was of the house of Caleb. It says Nabal was a very rich man of the house of Caleb. So that right there tells us that he's of the tribe of Judah, because that's what Caleb's tribe was. He's of the tribe of Judah, the same tribe as David. David and Nabal are related, and they both know it. They're from the same tribe. They know they're related. Nabal is said to have been shearing his sheep. This tells us it's payday. This is when you're going to take care of this stuff. It's payday for him. This was the time where all that hard work all year pays off. The sheep could be sold or the wool could be sold. Either way, Nabal's about to become even richer than he was before. He's about to get another payday, and that's a time of celebration. Look at verse 4. When David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep, David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. And thus you shall say to him, who lives in prosperity, peace be to you, peace to your house, and peace to all that you have." David's not yet the king of Israel at this time. Saul is still the king of Israel. David knows he's going to be king because God has said, "You're going to be the king." So he's waiting for Saul's reign to be over. Saul's hunting him down. David's not exactly in the best times. He's being hunted all the time. But at this point in his life, he has found 600 guys to hang out with him that have his back. And he's looking for a little bit of help. It's not just David, but he's got these 600 men that are there, they're faithful to him. And he needs some help. So he sends some of his men to Nabal for assistance. Okay, I'm hearing that things are good for you. You're about to get paid, even though you're already wealthy, but you're about to get into some more money here. So he sends these men, these 10 guys, to Nabal. Look at verse 7. "Now I have heard that you have shearers. Your shepherds were with us, and we did not hurt them, nor was there anything missing from them at all while they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever comes to your hand to your servants and to your son David." David hears that Nabal is shearing sheep, and his financial status is about to go up. He sends 10 of his men to ask Nabal if he would give his men some food. "Would you please help my guys too?" It was custom in that day to take care of a stranger that was passing through. When people came, you took care of the stranger. It used to be the same in this country also. If you can find it, which I'm sure you can, pull up those old westerns. Pull up an old western. The cowboy would be passing through the town, and he would he'd strike up a conversation with the lady or the man of the house, and he would say something like, "Hey, I've been traveling a long way, and I'm mighty tired. Could I get some victuals or a place to rest?" Or, the old language. That's what you're going to see on the westerns. And then they would feed him or put him up in a loft out in the shed. Like, "Hey, we've got a hay loft up there. You can stay there for the night." Or they would put him in a room in the house, but they would take care of him. That was the same kind of thing that's happening in this culture at this time. Today, if somebody comes to your door and says, "Hey, I'm mighty tired. Do you have some food to give me?" or whatever, people go, But it used to be that way in this country also. You would just take care of somebody passing through. Let me give you a place to sleep for the night, get you some food to help you along your way tomorrow. And that's a very friendly thing to do, and that's what this culture is like also. Not only did Nabal have food, he had the means to feed David and all his men without breaking a sweat. He's a very wealthy man. He also has a very good reason to do it, to take care of these guys. David and his men have been protecting Nabal's shepherds throughout this season. "We've been taking care of your guys." David and his men actually brought more prosperity to Nabal than he would have had if they were not involved. They've been helping him out. Look at verse 10. "Then Nabal answered David's servants and said, 'Who is David, and who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants nowadays who break away, each one from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers and give it to men when I do not know where they are from?'" Nabal wouldn't have brought in the kind of money that he was bringing in if it wasn't for the fact that David had been taking care of his men and protecting them as they were taking care of the sheep. But that didn't matter to Nabal. He refused to be a blessing to David and his men. "Yeah, I don't think so. You're not getting any of my stuff." When David's men returned to David with the report, David then makes an executive decision. So these guys come back to David and said, "Nabal says, 'Who is David and who is the son of Jesse?'" "Well, how'd you know my dad's name?" What do you mean, who are you? You know who I am. Everybody knows who this is. David kind of has a reputation at this point. So it's like, I'm just not going to do it. So David's a little upset about this because the custom is to take care of them. And he's asking somebody who has plenty of money and can take care of all 600 of these men. So David's upset. Look at verse 13. Then David said to his men, every man gird up his sword, or gird on his sword. So every man girded on his sword, and David also girded on his sword. And about 400 men went with David, and 200 stayed with the supplies. Now David has decided to kill Nabal and his men. Like, okay, things have escalated. This is a very insulting thing that Nabal has done. Like, why would you not do this? For one, we're family, we're of the same tribe, and why would you just do this? It's the custom to do this. Why would you not do this? So David's decided, all right, I'm going to take his life. I'm going to kill him and his men. And the news gets all the way back to Nabal's servants. These are the men who are also going to die. And they're not too thrilled about the information. Like, oh, David's coming to kill us. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that news. So they go into panic mode, which you would expect. They're not happy about the information. They go into panic mode. Look at verse 14. Now one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, and he reviled them. But the men were very good to us, and we were not hurt, nor did we miss anything as long as we accompanied them when we were in the fields. They were a wall to us both by night and day, all the time we were with them, keeping the sheep. Now therefore, know and consider what you will do, for harm is determined against our master and against all his household, for he is such a scoundrel, and one cannot speak to him. They run to Nabal's wife. Help. Ma'am, we could use some help. We've got a problem here. This servant runs to Abigail. Says, can you do something to help us? Nabal was the only one who was guilty, but it was about to affect all of them. If something doesn't happen, they're all going to die. They know David's coming. They've heard he's got a decent reputation as far as fighting and stuff like that. He's coming their way. And they know they can't speak to Nabal because he's a narcissist. What are we going to do, reason with him? We can't talk to Nabal about this problem. So the servants run out of hope. This is where Abigail rises to the top of the story here. They run to Abigail, like, we could use a little assistance here. What's she going to do? Go talk to Nabal? He's a narcissist. You know, what's she going to do? So she figures this out. What am I supposed to do? And she has a plan. Look at verse 18. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep already dressed, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and loaded them on donkeys. And she said to her servants, go on before me. See, I am coming after you. But she did not tell her husband Nabal. Abigail loads these donkeys up with all the food that Nabal should have given these guys in the first place. Here's my plan. I'm going to go backwards and do what Nabal should have done in the first place. But Nabal doesn't know what Abigail's doing. She could be in serious trouble for this, but she's making this move anyway. She's personally going down to meet David with a very important message for David. It's not really about feeding his men. She has something she wants to tell David. And this is also the message I need to hear, and every other Christian out there needs to hear too. In a day full of division and full of strife and everything that's going on out there, it would be good for us to hear Abigail's message. Look at verse 23. Now when Abigail saw David, she dismounted quickly from the donkey, fell on her face before David, and bowed down to the ground. So she fell at his feet and said, on me, my lord, on me let this iniquity be. And please let your maidservant speak in your ears and hear the words of your maidservant. Please let not my lord regard this scoundrel Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your maidservant, did not see the young men of my Lord whom you sent." Abigail's treating David as a king, even though he's not yet the king. Remember, King Saul is on the throne. She bows before him and accepts the entire blame for her husband's foolishness. Abigail hasn't done anything. She even confessed right there, "I didn't even know you sent the men. I never even saw these guys." She asked David to ignore her husband. Nabal's name means fool. Maybe his parents just weren't big fans of him. I don't know. Baby comes out like, fool. I don't know why, but by the way, if you're looking for baby names, don't go here, okay? Nabal means fool, and he lives up to his name. It's most likely, I'm guessing his parents didn't give that name to him, but I don't know for sure. It could have just been a name that he inherited because of his reputation. But his name means fool, and he lives up to it. Remember, David is angry. David's on his way to kill Nabal here. He has 400 men with drawn swords, and he's ready to take out Nabal's household. I'm gonna destroy him. Abigail's about to verbally disarm David and his army with a remarkable speech. This young lady comes out. She doesn't have a sword. She came with food. And unless you're in a food fight, that's a terrible weapon. She is not prepared to deal with conflict here. She came with food and she came with words. That's it. And she's about to disarm David and his 400 men with an incredible speech. Look at verse 26. "Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, since the Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hand, now let your enemies and those who seek harm for my Lord be as Nabal. And now this present, which your maidservant has brought to my Lord, let it be given to the young men who follow my Lord." Did you catch that? The Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hand. She just told David that the Lord has stopped him from taking revenge into his own hands. He's in the very act of seeking revenge. That is what he's going to do. He's on his way to seek revenge, and she says, "Whew, that was close. That was close. God stopped you from doing exactly what you're doing right now, David. That's amazing." And David's like, I'm in the middle of doing what I'm doing right now. And say, "Well, that was close. God stopped you from taking revenge in your own hands. God stopped you from doing this." And then she drives the whole thing even deeper. Look at verse 28. "Please forgive the trespasses of your maidservant, for the Lord will certainly make for my Lord an enduring house, because my Lord fights the battles of the Lord, and evil is not found in you throughout your days. Yet a man has risen to pursue you and seek your life, but the life of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living with the Lord your God, and the lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the pocket of a sling." This woman possesses an impressive amount of wisdom. Not only does she tell David that God has stopped him from seeking revenge, like, "Ooh, that was close, David. Look what God did. He stopped you from doing what you're doing right now. He stopped you from that." She also takes his mind back in time here. In verse 28, it says, "My Lord fights the battles of the Lord, and evil is not found in you." She reminds him of who he is and why God has chosen him to be the next king. There's no evil in you. You're a good man, David. Reminds him who he is. And then in verse 29, she says, "The lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the pocket of a sling." This one statement would trigger a memory in David's head. When he was 17 years old, God used him and a little slingshot to take down one of Israel's biggest enemies. Let me use a slingshot illustration for you, David. Let me trigger something here. These two statements together carry a huge message for David. David, you fight the battles of the Lord, and evil is not found in you, and the lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the pocket of a sling. Basically, she's saying, remember when you were completely dependent on God and didn't feel that you needed to take matters into your own hands? Remember it was the Lord's battle, not yours? Do you remember when you just trusted in him? The Lord will deal with this. Do you remember those days, David? Do you remember who you are? Abigail's reminding David of his position as a man of God. So far, David, you've been fighting the Lord's battles. This one's personal. This isn't your responsibility, David. Don't allow this to become a blemish on your record. The Lord fights, and you fight the Lord's battles. This one's personal, and it's going to scar your record, David. Don't do this. Look at how she says this in verse 30. And it shall come to pass when the Lord has done for my Lord, according to all the good that has been spoken concerning you, and has appointed you ruler over Israel, that this will be no grief to you, nor offense of heart to my Lord, either that you have shed blood without cause, or that my Lord has avenged himself. But when the Lord has dealt with my Lord, then remember your maidservant. She advises David not to ascend to the throne with innocent blood on his hands. You will carry guilt if you do this, David. This will weigh on you. If you take revenge into your own hands, this one's going to be heavy on you. This one, you're going to carry this with you. When we think about confrontation and only confrontation, we often miss out on the loss that comes with it. When our focus is on confrontation, like I'm just going to deal with this myself, we're not thinking about the consequences or the loss that comes with the confrontation, because we're just dealing with revenge. We're just dealing with the confrontation. This act would have given David the same kind of reputation as King Saul. And Abigail's like, oh, that's too big of a loss. You are a good man, and God has chosen you. There's no the evil to be spoken of you, David. You fight the Lord's battles. Don't let this scar your reputation. Don't take this one. The greatest danger in Abigail's mind was not as much about the people as it was about the name of God and the reputation of God's man. David, we kind of need some hope in Israel. We kind of need a good king, because the guy on the throne right now isn't exactly that. So we need you to do this right. God's reputation and your reputation need to remain intact, and this is going to scar it. So David, don't do this. Just don't do this. David had the right to be upset, but wrong action is never justified. You might feel justified in your actions because, hey, so-and-so deserves it. Maybe so-and-so does deserve it. Maybe they did you wrong. But wrong action is never justified, even though you have a right to be upset. Wrong action is never justified. Abigail's problems could have all been erased. She hears, wait, David's coming to take who out? Nabal. Well, that would be wonderful. He's narcissistic. He owns everybody. Everybody's just a possession to this guy. He's not exactly a good person to be around. I could just stand back in the shadows and let this happen, and all my problems are gone. It could all just go away. It was a perfect opportunity to have her loser of a husband taken off the scene and live in wealth herself. She could have done that. That was an option on the table. Like, it's already coming. Let's just let it happen. Nabal isn't even aware that the danger's coming his way. He doesn't even know it. So it's a perfect scenario. She could have just let it happen, but the heart of Abigail is revealed in her actions. God's character must be seen in the life of his children. And by the way, that's speaking to any of you who are saved. God's character must be seen in the life of his children. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes we do not show that. Are we God's children? Yes. I'm saved. I'm saved. I'm brought into the family of God because of what he's done for me. Praise God for it. I'm thankful for it. How am I living my life? Well, it doesn't always look real Jesus-y, but I'm doing okay. Like, why doesn't it? Why aren't you letting him express himself through your life? Well, because they don't deserve that. They don't deserve love. I'm mad at them. I'm going to hold this. I'm bitter because of their actions. Well, now your actions are wrong too. And now you're doing the same thing. Abigail insisted on living in a way that showed that she was a child of God, and she was determined to remind David that he was the same. We've got to let him express himself through our lives. Abigail went to remind David that there was a greater purpose in life than this small victory. Yeah, David, you can have this small victory. You sure could. But the consequences of this small victory are bigger than the victory itself. And there's so much loss that comes with this. David is listening. Just picture the situation. David's on his way with 400 guys with swords in their hands to Nabal's house, and this lady shows up with a lot of food and no weapons and says, I just want to talk to you about the situation, David. Just picture this. All these men ready to fight, and this young lady comes up and says, let me just remind you of a few things before you go. And she gives this little speech. And David, you can almost picture him just standing there like, do you see the power I came with? Yep, I just want to remind you of a couple things before you make your decision here, David. Look at David's response to Abigail. Verse 32. Then David said to Abigail, blessed is the Lord God of Israel who sent you this day to meet me. And blessed is your advice, and blessed are you, because you have kept me this day from coming to bloodshed and from avenging myself with my own hand. For indeed, as the Lord God of Israel lives, who has kept me back from hurting you, unless you had hurried to come to meet me, surely by morning light no males would have been left to Nabal. It was happening before morning, Abigail. I was taking them all out. Praise God you showed up. David confesses to Abigail that if it wasn't for her, she would have destroyed Nabal's home and his own testimony. I would have taken both down at the same time if it wasn't for you. There is something very important and very powerful about a person's testimony. Abigail knew the value of godly character. She displayed it in her life, and she encouraged others to display it in their lives. Abigail ends up going home to find her husband drunk. After David talks to her, says, thank you for coming. I'm just going to go home instead of take matters in my own hands. I'm just going to go home now. All 401 of us are going to go that way instead of that way. Thanks for talking to me. And he heads back. Abigail goes home, and her husband's drunk. So she has to wait until morning, but she wants to tell him what God has done. She wants to tell him what was happening. So she has to wait till morning. Look at verse 37. So it was in the morning when the wine had gone from Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became like a stone. Then it happened after about 10 days that the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. When Abigail tells her husband what happened, it says that his heart died within him. Now, this could have been a stroke. We don't necessarily know what this is, but the news was big news. It could have been a stroke. It could have been fear that because David could return, at least, hey, now I'm a walking target, and I know that. It could have been fear that David could return. It could have been the shame because his wife just had to go and save his life, because that would have been a huge ego to a narcissistic person, a huge hit to his ego. Either way, Nabal's life was over, and Abigail was just getting started. Her life is just getting started now. Look at verse 39. So when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, blessed be the Lord who has pleaded the case or the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and has kept his servant from evil. For the Lord has returned the wickedness of Nabal on his own head. And David sent and proposed to Abigail to take her as his wife. When the servants of David had come to Abigail at Carmel, they spoke to her, saying, David sent us to you to ask you to become his wife. Okay, that took a turn. That story took a turn. So David hears that Nabal dies, and he says, would you guys go propose to her for me? Which is kind of a weird way to do it, but it's not exactly our culture. But this fierce fighter of a man, like, go propose. Let me know what she says. Like, that's scary. What I was going to do wasn't scary, but that's scary. She could say no. So he sends all these guys in and says, go propose to Abigail. And of course, Abigail said, absolutely not. At least give me some time to think about it. No, that's not what she said. Look at verse 42. So Abigail rose in haste and rode on a donkey attended by 5 of her maidens, and she followed the messengers of David and became his wife. Like, you want to think about it? David wants to know if you want to get married. Get the donkeys. Get the donkeys. We're going to David. Like, you want to think about it for it? No. She got on the donkeys and rode behind the servants to David and became David's wife. God has just blessed this young lady for her determination to make sure that godly character was on display in God's children. Abigail reminded David of who he was. You're going to ruin everything. Because the reason you were picked to be king is because you're honoring to him. And now vengeance, all that does is honor you. That's all you're doing with vengeance, is you're honoring yourself. And if you take this matter into your own hands, David, you're going to ruin your reputation, and you're going to hurt the name of God too. So think about what you're doing, and you're like, I really like her. I really like that girl. 10 days later, he's like, go tell her I really like her. Yeah, tell her, yeah. Do you want to just skip dating and maybe get married? And she's like, get the donkeys. Life is looking up. We're going to town. She had a very important message for David, and he had to hear it. When you're a child of God, you fight differently. You don't fight like the rest of the world fights. When you are a child of God, you fight differently. It's never supposed to be about personal gain. It's never supposed to be about revenge. In every battle, whether big or small, godly character must be displayed above all else. Yeah, but sometimes I'm mad. Well, then look at the verse that says, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord, I will repay. Be angry and sin not. There's a couple of these sitting in the Bible for you. But I'm really mad. Then take a minute. You don't fight that way. You are a child of God, and we fight differently. Behavior doesn't determine identity, but behavior is still important. If I do a bad thing, that doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me a good person that did a bad thing. It doesn't give me my identity. But behavior is so important. The message of Abigail needs to ring in the ears of every Christian today. Because, by the way, there are Christians behaving badly all over the place. And there's a lot of people that say, I don't want that God, because of how you display that God. I don't want him. That's when we need somebody like Abigail coming into our life and saying, hey, you're supposed to fight different. You don't sit on the sidelines and not say anything, because the truth needs to be heard. Say it. But you also don't take everything as a personal crusade and die on every hill. You don't do that either. You fight differently. It's supposed to be the character of God being expressed in your life. No matter what conflict you come into, let him express himself through you. We fight differently. In our society, frustrations rise quickly. We are people of a fast-paced mindset. We have microwaves. We have apps on our phone that do everything for us. We even have AI. I don't have time to think. AI, think for me. We are fast-paced. Like everything now. That's just what life is like for us. We know what we want, and we know how we believe we're supposed to be treated. And everybody's got that idea. And by the way, we're all in a setting where we're supposed to be treated real good, right? I mean, all of us. None of us are like, yeah, see, I'm not there yet. People should treat me bad. None of us are saying that. We're all like, I'd like to be treated good, and I think I should be treated good. When circumstances go a different direction, though, we choose how we're going to deal with that small battle. What if I'm not treated like I feel I should be treated? What if the results don't end up like I think the results should end up? What if things go the wrong direction for me? And many times what we choose to do is we choose to get even. The problem with getting even is the fact that we get even. And that's a big problem. Our behavior is now even with the behavior of the other person. And most of the time, in order to get even, you're going to have to go down a rung, not up. If our choice is to get even, you've already realized in your life, I'm choosing to go down, not up. Because what they did, you're not looking at somebody like, you are a fantastic person, I'm going to get even because I want to be like you. No. Anytime that we want to get even, we're choosing to step down, not up. And we have to realize that. That is what Abigail's telling David. You're going to get even. And that's going to hurt. That's going to cause a conflict. That's going to cause a problem. That's going to ripple so far because you chose to step down instead of stepping up. We fight differently, David. We are children of God. We don't handle it that way. The key to getting ahead is to refuse to get even. That's the key to getting ahead. When conflict arises, how do you choose to confront it? How do you choose to deal with it? Abigail reminds us that God's children fight differently. We fight differently. We deal with issues, but we're to deal with it in a way that displays God's character through our actions. Every one of us, remember this. And I'm sure there's people in everybody's lives where we're like, yeah, but not that guy, right? Even that guy. Even that guy. When you deal with that one, let God's character be expressed through your life. Yeah, but he doesn't deserve it. Did you? Did you deserve God's love and his character to be expressed to you in your life? Well, no. But they're worse than me. They're not. They're people just like you are. The way you choose to approach it will become your reputation. We cannot get so caught up in what brings us instant gratification that we neglect to show the character of God. We cannot do that. The story of Abigail teaches us to consider godly character before we consider reacting to our situation. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting, by the way, takes no thought whatsoever. Not even a second of thought. Somebody jumps out and says, boo, what do? You react. You're not thinking, I wonder if I should jump or if I should just stand still. You don't. No thought at all. You just jump and you scream and you embarrass yourself. You didn't think, I will jump and scream and embarrass myself. A reaction doesn't take any thought whatsoever, but a response does. A response does, and most of the time people react. God is not interested in the number of times you win. He's interested in how you fight. Like, man, I lost another battle. Well, he lost some too. He wasn't willing that any should perish, and people still perish. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often I wanted to gather you as a hen gathers her chicks, but you were not willing. There's things I wanted to win too, and I didn't win. Remember Jesus' prayer, God, if there's any way, let this cup pass from me. I really don't want to be crucified. Not exactly on my bucket list. I don't want to do that, but nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. Jesus didn't get everything he wanted either. He's not interested in how many times you win. He's interested in how you fight. The child of God is to face conflict in a way that still allows Christ to express himself through us. Even in the conflict, we stand for truth. We don't back down. But we're to do everything we do out of love and gratitude for what God has done for us. even the conflicts, even those times. I don't exactly know how everyone here deals with problems, but we have so many reasons to put Christ on display through our lives. We have so many. He's been so good to us. Like, yeah, but what about our enemies? What did he say to do to your enemies? Love them. Like, but it's so hard. That's why he told us. If it was easy, we probably wouldn't have needed the reminder at all. Like, hey, you make sure you eat every day, okay? Like, yeah, I'll try to remember. I don't need to be reminded. It's not something that I need to be reminded. You don't have to tell me to eat every day. Hey, remember to keep breathing, because if you don't, that's bad. I don't have to think that. That's natural. What's not natural is to love your enemies. So he says, hey, I need to tell you something. It's not going to come naturally, but I want you to love your enemies. We have so many reasons to express Christ through our lives. So many reasons. He's the reason we have a relationship with God. He's so good, and we are completely dependent on him, and we need to remember that we are completely dependent on him. Vengeance, that's his department. Faithfulness, that's our department. That's it. Child of God, we fight differently. We fight differently. The battle is the Lord's, so make sure he's front and center. This is for you to deal with. I will display you front and center. I will do this with you, but you are what's going to be seen, not me. And whatever comes in your life, we fight differently. And we need to remember that we fight differently. We don't have to agree on everything. I have not been able to persuade everybody to see it my way ever. I'm good if I get a couple. It's just life. We're all different. We all have different opinions. But we don't fight against flesh and blood. That's not where the battle is. Let the battle be the Lord's, and make sure he's front and center in your life. And maybe there's things that you need to deal with in your life. Maybe there's those people, you can close your eyes right now and you can see their face. Maybe start loving. But they don't deserve it. I get that. Neither do we. But God did it for us. So remember, we fight differently. As children of God, we take care of issues differently. If Christ is not being expressed through your life, you've got to remember, just go back and read this story about this lady named Abigail. Maybe you've heard of her. Go back and read her story. Her message was incredible. Remember who you are. And remember, we fight differently.